Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Jaguares versus the Hurricanes. And boy, the Hurricanes have bounced back from what was a really, really painful defeat to the Stormers last weekend, and they have beaten the Jaguares 23-26. Yes, it was that close. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinions. And joining me is Shane from Australia. How are you doing, sir?
Good, thanks, Paul. How are you?
Not bad at all. So, just that first half, though, I mean, this was a game that really woke up in the second half. In that first half, I mean, the conditions, there's a bit of wind there, but it's dry, and there was an awful lot of kicking from both sides, wasn't there?
Oh, absolutely. And it depended on how much ground you can get. And there were some long kicks. People, players weren't prepared to run the ball as much as we saw in that second half. So territorial ground was handy if you got a good kick from your 10 or 15.
Yeah, and also the Jaguars, I mean, the Canes had most of the opening 10 minutes, got themselves a penalty. Geordie Barrett knocked it over from his own half. And when I mean from his own half, I mean from like 63 metres. It was beyond his 10-metre line. It was, and I mean, it had distance on it. It was one hell of a kick.
Oh, beauty. Reece Hodge even might have to work on that. And he's another long distance kicker. So accuracy, as we'll find out later, ended up helping the Hurricanes over the line too.
Very true. And looking at this, I mean, we did actually, we're talking about was kicking in the first half, but we did have a Hurricanes try disallowed when Proctor made a burst through. When they went back, they saw that Gareth Evans had blocked and impeded another player. So there were opportunities in that first half, but for me, the Jaguares defence held up really, really well, was tackling up in the low 90s%, and the Hurricanes just were not making any ground, were they?
No, and you don't want to do that when you're in Argentina, because particularly when you're up against almost their test side, because they'll turn up and they put some big hits on, and if anything, the Hurricanes were probably a bit lucky that they got a few penalties and stayed within the touching distance there.
Yeah, they didn't have, so apart from that one opportunity by Proctor, they had lots of possession. They had plenty of possession in that first half, a decent amount of territory as well, but they just didn't look like breaking the Jaguares line. It was very solid. Kramer hit a wonderful line. I was a bit kind of dubious about some of the passing, but hey, passing in midfield, you're allowed to go slightly forward, it appears, this season, or any season really, to be honest. And yeah, Kramer hit a wonderful line and went over to score and put the Jaguares up. They missed a penalty on half time that would have, or just before half time, that would have stretched the lead out. He's right. 10-9 at half time. The Hurricanes really clinging on, especially after what we would last weekend against the Stormers, where they got taken to the cleaners. I think the coach would have been, well, not happy, but kind of relieved to stay in touch.
Well, not only that, I think one thing I observed was the Hurricanes being very, very lazy at the breakdown at times, not throwing enough forwards into those rucks, and that actually got the Argentinian blokes out of their own 22 at times, because their discipline in defence was so good. Really, just to stay within a point, to be honest, was pretty lucky at the time.
Yeah, and we've seen that from a lot of sides this weekend. The defence are challenging the breakdown. The attack's not putting enough players in. And Karifi, he plays right on that line the whole time as to whether he's supporting his weight or not. Sometimes gets away with it, sometimes doesn't. So there was plenty of challenging at ruck time. Come out to the second half, and the Hurricanes get caught offside, but then we have a holding on, and so they swap a couple of penalties in there, and then the game really started to kind of open up. We even had Geordie try to drop goal, but he was nowhere near, was he?
No, I saw that, and he'd want to. He was in perfect position in broken play to run that and get his forwards quickly to the breakdown and get his backs moving as well. So I think that was actually probably his. And he had other opportunities to run it as well instead of kick it. That was my concern with Geordie. I wish he'd run the ball a bit more.
Yeah, and up until about 20 minutes ago, or even slightly, or maybe even slightly 15 minutes ago, up until then, the Hurricanes would only play about 2, maybe 3 phases before they kicked it, and we were still running at nearly a kick a minute up until that point. And that's the kind of level that we saw from Scotland, England, which was windy and rainy, and you just couldn't play rugby. It's the kind of thing we saw in Durban last weekend from the Sharks versus the Bulls, where the ball's extremely humid, extremely slippery. It's not the kind of thing you expect from this kind of from a game in Argentina at this time of year. Conditions were not an excuse for that style of play. It was really down to the the playing styles of the two teams. I thought because it had been all kicking up until that sort of hour mark that Jaguares going to the corner was a bit of a risk, but boy, Creevy came up as under the pile of bodies, and they backed their decision to go for it.
Yeah, look, I actually thought I saw a bit of collapsed play there from the Hurricanes, so they're lucky not to have a man in the bin and a full penalty try. It didn't really matter as it was that close to the post anyway for the conversion, but just a little bit lucky they wasn't 15 on 14.
Yeah, actually, before that, I mean, Simon's mentioning here that he enjoyed the game. He said, look, doesn't like it when the commentators suggest bias by the ref. I thought the ref had a good game today.
I thought he was outstanding.
Yep. So the referee made calls, used the TMO as and when he needed to, and when he should do, and it was all good. Talking about TMOs though, before that line-out maul, we did have Buffelli sliding in the corner. I think everybody watching it real time thought, wow, he's done a great job to stay and play, has got the try in the corner off first phase, but Geordie just dragged his leg over the line and made the telling tackle. And that was a really good example of why we have the TMO, because all the officials were in the right place, all the commentators watching it live, and everyone said, okay, yep, looks good, but they went to the TMO, and it was clear as day under slow-mo that was out.
Well, you don't mess with Rasta Wenger when he's refereeing. I like him, and there's for good reason. He did not award that try. He blew the whistle and said, I need to check this. That is a sign of a very confident referee who knows what he's doing, and, talks of bias or anything like that, hardly. He did a great job, and he was proven right by the fact that the fellow went into touch and Geordie just did enough. That's a good example of Geordie running.
So 23-12, and it looked like basically the Jaguares had done enough to wrap up the game, because to be honest, the Hurricanes hadn't shown enough in the previous hour of play to suggest they were going to do what they did after that. Suddenly, next on the line, we've got to play, boys. We can't keep kicking this away. We've got to keep holding the ball. We've got to play. They did play. Admittedly, a tiring defence probably also helped them. And it's that the Jaguares weren't making the dominant tackles they were earlier on, perhaps missing one or two. And the Hurricanes were getting quick ball, getting over that gain line. And some lovely play by, now which way round was it? We had, TJ went very close when Walker Leary worked with Lamapi to get the break. TJ went close. They had the scrum. That went close. They had a penalty. TJ's chatting away to Razzie, saying, well, hey, surely we're looking at blah, 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 blah. And he's like, no. Quickly taps it and goes. Just gets caught short, but Fidel follows up, and over he goes for the try. Big lesson there, folks, on defence. Stay awake. Watch the ball and the player. don't listen to all the other things that are going on.
Complacency.
Yeah.
And that is a big thing with Argentinian sides. I love watching them play, but when they get into this complacent mode, it's very annoying. And that's probably where TJ Perenara, who's very cheeky, you can do those sort of things and they can hurt you on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and then Lamapi did it again later on, made another break, this time releasing Jamie Booth, who went over and scored. And suddenly, from being 23-12 and in control of the game, they lose it 23-26 at the death. So, and again, they had an opportunity late on. They had the ball but a great strip tackle by wasn't Fidel, which the other one to give death, but anyway, by one of the other Hurricanes players, caused the knock on. And whilst the Hurricanes line out was dodgy as tonight, their scrum was absolutely solid. And for a team we've talked about having a bit of a lightweight front five, they've really improved that part of their game.
They stepped up from last week, Paul, when they were absolutely shocking against the Stormers. And with that last try, they showed some urgency while keeping hold of the ball, which was something they didn't do well for the other 75 minutes, I've got to tell you, until those couple of late tries. So, they'll take something away from this tour. They've got a win now that hopefully just going to kickstart their season. And they've got a bit to work on in the training paddock as well, I've got to say. This was still not a brilliant win.
No, they didn't. I'd say they spent the first at least 50 minutes of the game just kicking the ball. That's not going to work against other sides. They've got some real class players. Let's be honest, that back line is to die for. You're bringing on people like Vince Arso, Jamie Booth had a wonderful season with the Sunwolves last year. Fletcher Smith, who when he's given time and space, is really dangerous. Really quality. They've got depth as well in that back line. In the forwards, perhaps not the same depth, but the addition of players like Lomax, the maturing of Walker Laurie, who is so big that he has to have his own number 26 jersey because there's no the other 4s and 5 jerseys just aren't big enough for him. Really means that they are improving. They don't have the depth in the pack, but that back line, they've got depth for days. And if they click right, they could be dangerous this year. But everyone wrote them off after that Stormers game. But we only have to go back a couple of years, and they did the same thing against the Bulls, where they got absolutely ripped to pieces, and then still went on to into the finals and made it to the semi-finals. So, don't write off the Hurricanes just yet.
No. I remember round 1, 2016, and the Brumbies put 52 on them in Canberra, and they went on to win the lot. So, the Hurricanes probably are not great starters as we've seen over the last couple of years, but they hopefully will come good and come strong, and I've still got them in my top 4, so they'll be right.
Oh, I've got them slightly outside the top 4. I've got them top 5, but anyway, the Jaguares, though, they are going to have to improve on this as well. Now, for me, their real problem is going to be number 10, and it's not the quality of the 10s, it's just trying to keep them fit. Miotti's left leg was, I couldn't see any skin because of bandaging. He was hobbling around. For me, he shouldn't have been on the pitch. He was looking really stiff.
And that's the thing about these, that when they go to South Africa and Argentina on tour, you want to take a big side.
This is the Jaguares.
Strong.
The Jaguares.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Where have I been? Sleeping. No.
But they're at number 10. They're at home. They should have all their options available, and still they're having to play a guy who is basically running around on one leg, which is a real concern for them. Their first choice one obviously got injured at the beginning of the game last weekend, and that depth is getting tested really early doors for the Jaguares. So that's my main concern for them. Otherwise, Buffelli looked really good, as did Miotti. the 13 as well. So again, lovely players, but perhaps a little bit shallow in some positions.
Yeah, I still think they'll be playing finals. I think they'll be tough still to beat in Argentina. It's how they go away from home, and now I can use the depth statement when they go to New Zealand and Australia, but they seem to do okay on those tours, and still plenty of time in the year left for them as well, so they'll be right.
That's I guess one of the other problems for them is, look, join us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. when myself and Stephen Harris will go through all the games from this weekend. I've still got a couple to catch up on, but just looking at it from a results point of view, but the Stormers have yet to concede a point this season with 2 wins, and that's just that statement alone is impressive. The Sharks got a good win, over the Hurricanes. Sorry, the Highlanders. So they've gone 2-0 as well. So that South Africa conference is already starting to look really competitive at the top end.
And scary. The Sharks, as I'd mentioned when we previewed the round on Thursday night, Paula, I said that the Sharks usually play their best rugby against New Zealand opponents, which proved again on Friday night just how dangerous they can be. And the Highlanders, to be honest, were nowhere near the game. They were awful. One thing I note, maybe it's up for discussion for tomorrow night with Steve, is that some of the New Zealand sides have really dropped in standard over the last couple of seasons. It's not nice to watch. It's actually quite lackluster. The Highlanders, the Hurricanes, to an extent the Chiefs, and we all know the troubles the Blues have had over the last few years, though they'll take last night as a big victory. But, some of that is very disappointing to watch.
It's no surprise that Mark Richardson, the new CEO, taken over from Steve Chu, has set up a review into rugby in New Zealand. Look, there's falling attendance at the games. Grassroots is struggling in New Zealand, and so it's unsurprising. I had a good chat with Adrian Skeggs, the ex-Wallaby. That they can go to DrivingMaul.com. That interview's open to everybody to watch. But the thing about rugby in Australia at the moment is the grassroots are good, but the professional level is in trouble. In New Zealand, absolutely, the professional level is still there or thereabouts, but the grassroots is in trouble. And that's a bit of a problem. A problem there. Simon makes a good point that the new professional competition in South America will help to the Jaguares to build new depth. So the Premier Liga, whatever it's called, Premier Liga Sudamerica or something like that, it's called, has got a team from Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Uruguay, Chile, 2 others, 6 of them. So I've gone blank off the top of my head. I think it's Peru and where all the cocaine comes from. Anyway. Colombia. So they've got a professional competition for the first time this year. Sure, it's only 6 teams, but hey, it's a starting point to build off, and that's a good sign. So really looking to see how that grows. But that should help the Jaguares build on that. Also, by moving the Rugby Championship, the Americas Rugby Championship from the Six Nations window to the Rugby Championship window, again, they're keeping all their players available for Super Rugby. They're not losing the kind of the training squad off to international competition, which will also help them as well. So you've got that. You've got in New Zealand. You've got obviously the Hurricanes have now stepped up. The Chiefs obviously looking really good. The Crusaders, well, hey, just because they've lost one game, you don't want to count them out from the championship. So
again, they'll be back pretty quick.
So the New Zealand, I can tell you, So again, the New Zealand conference, sure, you've got the Highlanders not looking so good, but the Blues have picked up a good win, and we can, okay, fine. Then they're not going to be thereabouts. But again, there's at the top end you've got 2 or 3 teams that are competitive, that's looking good. The problem, as you say, is that Australia Conference. The Brumbies, sure, are 2-0, but they haven't really been tested yet. New Zealand Conference is coming. I think they've got 2 New Zealand games over the next 2 weekends. I think that's going to be the real tester for them, isn't it?
Yeah. The Brumbies, I think, will probably get a bonus point out of the Highlanders game. I expect the Highlanders will bounce back. They do travel pretty well to Australia. In years past, they've been very competitive against the Australian side. So, but the Brumbies look like already setting the benchmarks in terms of Australian side performances. So I thought the Reds weren't too bad against the Lions last night. Their defence and the character they showed in the jumper, but they've got a long way to go. The Waratahs, well, we all know that it's for the last 4 seasons they have been hopelessly.
And the Rebels, I mean, the way they got put away by the Sunwolves. Yeah, okay, so
it's not looking good, mate.
It's not looking good in that conference, but the South Africa Conference and New Zealand Conference, there is some good rugby to be watching this season. So do hit that subscribe down below and the bell, because I'll bring you post-match reactions to the Friday, Saturday night games from New Zealand, plus these Jaguares games as well that are on a Sunday. So do hit that. Any other comments from this? From this game, I guess we should probably touch on the fact that the Hurricanes lost 4 out of their 12 lineouts. That, when you got players like Riccatelli, Amua, and Dane Cole, you've got some really good hookers there, but their lineout's just not functioning.
No, set piece is a bit of a worry there, Paul, with their line out. It's lucky the scrum made up for it, and some big tackling forwards in the end, but set pieces can't do that against teams like the Crusaders later on, or even the Chiefs. They'll tear you to bits.
Yeah, they're going to have to. By making players like Moroney in that 13 jersey make a lot of tackles, he got up to 10 tackles. You can see that the Hurricanes are happy to move that width, and that's going to be good, because it shows that they're showing different pictures to the defence, which one of the things I've said that I've complained about the Blues doing in the past is basically doing the same thing over and over again. At least the Hurricanes can move it around a bit. We know the Jaguares have got that razzle dazzle, and we saw it again tonight. So yeah, looking forward to some exciting rugby. Head over to DrivingMaul.com, because I've been asked by one of my supporters to do about the future of Super Rugby, and in light of rumours around the Springboks moving to the Six Nations, look out for a couple of videos I'm going to be doing there, looking at how has Super Rugby got to where it is today, which is falling attendances and a lack of interest, and where can it go, or where's it likely to go over the next sort of 5 or so years. Look out for those. So those sort of things will all be there for my supporters. So thank you very much, Shane. It has been an absolute pleasure again. If you want to hear Shane's dulcet tones, join us again Thursday night, 8 p.m, for previewing round 3 of Super Rugby, where we'll go through all the games and all the lineups that have been announced at that time. Thank you, everybody. I will be back to what's the game? Back after the France-Italy game. Got on a glutton for punishment. That's a 4 a.m. kickoff here with post-match reaction. So look forward to that. Echo Beat said, once now Mappy started getting the ball on the hard straight lines, the Canes started to look more comfortable. And yeah, they did. And I don't know why we keep seeing Lamapi out on the left wing at times. He's a player that you need running those hard lines inside. He's a great get out of jail option for the fly half as well. Just keep him sat in that 12 channel.
A lot of Nonu in him, actually. And I like that. And he's, that observation's right. Play him in his position and let him get on with the work that he needs to get on with.
Yeah, he's got pace, and he has proven that he can be a try scorer as well. out in those wide channels, absolutely. But you've got players like Vince Arso, you can bring in Houston, Ben Lamb, they can all do that as well. None of them can do what Lamapi can do on the inside, though. Thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rugby. I'll be back after France, Italy this weekend. Next weekend, I'll be doing Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday games again. So do join me for all of that action.